Okay, hi everyone. We will begin the webinar in just a minute. Just want to give everyone a few seconds to trickle in, but we're super excited to be starting the webinar. Okay, I'm going to start us off here. So hello everyone. I'm so excited to be kicking off the webinar today. We are going to be discussing the AI ROI equation. We will be sharing insights on balancing operations, costs, and better customer experiences. At a time when customer expectations continue to increase, brands must find a way to elevate experiences while cutting costs, which is not an easy thing to do. So I'm very excited to be having this conversation today. But before we begin, I'm going to start off by sharing a little bit of research from our recent CCW digital market study to kind of set the stage for the conversation. We will then transition to our fireside chat, and then at the end, we will have a Q&A portion of the webinar. So this conversation will be recorded for anyone who wants to revisit the webinar at any point. And with all that being said, I want to start with a question for you all in the audience before we get into introductions. So I want to get a pulse on how you're thinking about ROI right now. So let me just put the poll up here. Is your organization currently seeing a positive ROI from your AI investment? I'd love to know your thoughts, and we can go over them and kind of talk through them here. And then we'll dive into some introductions. So I'll give everyone a few seconds here to answer the question. 0 submitted out of 26 of you right now. So I hope more of you answer the poll so we can talk a little bit about it. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about ROI from AI. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be sharing some research from our latest market study and just kind of talk about how we can measure ROI, what it looks like moving forward, what contact center leaders and executives are prioritizing when it comes to ROI. So we have a lot to cover in an hour, and I'm super excited to hear from you guys. Okay, so we have around 30% of people answering this poll. So let's go over the results here. Okay, so 11% of you said yes, clear cost or CX improvements. 22% are saying somewhat, early signs, still a little bit unclear. 11% say no, and then 55% are not using AI in CX yet. Okay, interesting results here. So we're seeing a lot of people in the early stages, maybe a little bit of early results. And yeah, I think that kind of sets me up really well here for the research that I'm going to share. But before we do that, I want to I guess we lost a slide here. I don't know why that's not coming up. Okay, but I want to start off with some introductions. So I am joined here by Stephen Canterbury, Director of Customer Success Management, and Bobby Kowalski, Senior Manager of Insights and Strategy at ASAPP. So Stephen, do you want to start us off here and just tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role at ASAPP?
Sure. Thanks, Brooke. So Stephen Canterbury, as Brooke said, I run the customer success team at ASAPP, all focused on measuring and delivering value with our customers as they go through their AI journey. ASAPP, for those that aren't familiar, we're a AI native company focused on delivering solutions that are really tackling the hardest problems to solve in customer service. And we've been doing this AI and particularly native AI for 10 plus years now. So this is really has been our key focus, all thinking about how can we make contact centers the most efficient places as possible. And we'll talk about it a little bit later, but our core focus is a product called Generative Agent. It's an AI agent built to safely solve these customer problems autonomously. And we really are focused on driving that ROI and value and also helping to teach people how we measure it as well. So very excited to be talking to Brooke and with my partner in crime, Bobby here, who plenty of people see us together all the time here. So I'll let Bobby introduce himself as well.
Hey everyone, I'm Bobby Kowalski. I lead our insights and strategy team at ASAP as part of Steven's customer success organization. My team's role is to partner with our customers to figure out where to best deploy this technology. And then once they do deploy it, making sure that they are getting the maximum business benefit out of the technology, figuring out how to measure it, how to make sure that they're understanding that value and being able to communicate it back to their own stakeholders. So looking forward to chatting with you all.
Okay, so thank you both so much for the introductions. I'm going to start off with a little bit of research just to kind of get the stage set here, give some of our CCW digital perspective, and just get us started. So I think it's kind of, although 55% of you stated that you are kind of just early, you haven't started AI yet, it's kind of the time. So we're not just entering the AI, this age of AI, we are really in it. We are deep in the age of AI right now. So 99% of contact center leaders have maintained or increased their AI budgets this year in 2025. And with that, 71% of leaders are now spending more time sourcing and testing new AI-powered solutions. So they're really taking this moment to invest in AI. And hopefully a lot of you who are joining this call are also investing in AI right now and taking this moment. And we've talked about AI for quite some time. I know as long as I've been in this space, we've been looking to AI to solve a lot of our problems. But I think this year is the year that people are really making that leap and taking that step to leverage and utilize AI to enhance their experiences. But is it exactly what we've expected and what we expect to see out of our results? So I wanted to share some early kind of obstacles that we're seeing for people who have leveraged AI and are working and in their AI journey right now. So I think 71% of leaders are facing difficulties implementing and or optimizing the solutions that they're deploying. So they're early on in their journey. They've faced a little bit of a challenge within their implementation journey, and that's kind of caused them a little bit of a struggle. But again, it's kind of early stages here. 54% have seen inaccuracies or inconsistent communication. And then, 54% have seen a slightly negative impact on their customer experience because customers maybe are not bought into the technology yet. Maybe they're not leveraging the technology in a way that's meaningful to them. And then 52% say that agents are not on board yet, so it has had a negative impact on their agent experience. So I think all of this is not to say that AI can't get there. I think it's there. It's just we're seeing kind of these early struggles, these early obstacles within the AI journey because it is so new for so many people. And so ultimately, 50% of contact center leaders have said that their AI investments are progressing slower than they expected. So it's not that it can't get there. It's just that the journey has been a lot slower than I think we initially thought it would be. But I do want to highlight some early successes, and this is specifically with AI agents. So 57% of leaders say that they are more likely to trust an AI agent to successfully solve a customer problem than they were a year ago. So although they've seen, maybe a few inconsistencies or things like that, they are really trusting that AI is there, like the technology is there and it really can help successfully solve customer problems. So the confidence in the technology is there right now. And then 67% of leaders believe that AI agents are resonating with customers better than chatbots. So I've talked about this many times, but I think part of the adoption challenge, part of the reason why maybe we're seeing customers not as happy right now with AI is simply because they're not ready to engage with the technology. Maybe they had a poor experience in the past. Maybe a chatbot didn't function well for them. So they just don't have that confidence in the technology like contact center executives do. So it's going to take a little bit more to get them on board. But contact center executives know that AI agents are resonating better with customers and that the technology is going to support them in a really meaningful way. And hopefully we will see that adoption very soon. So as we look ahead, as we talk about ROI, I wanted to pinpoint a few of the areas that contact center leaders expect to see gains in AI. So 90% want better self-service. They want better agent efficiency, quality, and workflow, more proactive engagement. So not just solving problems, but really being proactive and solving customer problems in before they even arise. And then 82% want an increase in data and analytics. So this is just kind of a picture of the ROI that we're expecting, areas that contact center leaders really want AI to support them. And I think as we move ahead, this is really, the benefits that we are going to see. So just want to end on this note before we dive into our conversation, and Stephen and Bobby can shed some light on a lot of this. But as we look ahead, we're looking to AI to solve many of our problems. But what does ROI look like? I pinpointed 4 areas that we want to see gains in. But where are we going to see, what use cases are most impactful as we move ahead? And how do we actually measure success with the technology? Because we are potentially in the early stages here, early on in the journey, it's maybe progressing slower than we expected. So how are we measuring our successes with the tools? And as we look ahead, what can we expect? So with that, I want to dive into our fireside chat or Q&A portion here to really get your perspective, Stephen and Bobby, on, how we can improve on all of this and really better leverage AI effectively. Okay, so I want to start with strategy. So Stephen, this question is for you. What do companies with a clear vision of AI in their contact centers prioritize when it comes to their AI strategy? And how does this help these organizations drive really tangible ROI?
I think it's a really good question to kick us off, Brooke. I think companies that are focused on AI and are doing this in a clear and strategic way, the biggest thing that I've seen from them is that they're focused on reducing customer friction. And what I mean by that is that they're reducing the difficulty it is for customers to get to a resolution for the reason why they came to talk to them in the first place. So they're leveraging AI to allow for customers to potentially self-serve or to get to a agent faster than they previously could have, or get to a resolution faster than they previously could have, whether it was through a chat bot or waiting in long queue times. The real goal of delivering AI right now is reducing that friction that customers are experiencing when they have to contact you in the first place. And then when you think about how that drives that tangible ROI, if you can drive customers towards better self-service, they don't need to get to a live agent, or if you're getting them to a live agent, but it's taking them less time to resolve the issue, or they're waiting and spending less time waiting, you're creating a more positive experience for those customers that should, in the long run, save you money and save your company time to have to run your contact center.
That's great. And I want to shift here and talk about some success stories, because I think it can be really helpful to learn from other people, learn from their success stories. So Stephen, again, I want to start with you here. Can you share a success story or maybe a real world example of a company that has scaled its customer experiences, particularly with AI, in a way that kind of balances automation and human assistance? Because I know that can be a challenge.
Yeah. So I love this example. We work with a number of airlines, and in particular, one of the airlines we worked with was set out to resolve a really major pain point for them, which is when they are going through major disruptions or IROPS or regular operations, whether it's due to storms or air traffic control delays, whatever it may be. What that results in is a significant increase in customers that have to contact their contact centers. So their flights have been disrupted. They need support in adjusting their flight schedule as an end customer. And the difficulty there for the company is those aren't predictable. So you can't schedule and staff your employees to be able to ramp up to handle these types of issues. And they're often some of the most complex things that a agent would have to deal with and that a customer is trying to get resolved. So we work with an airline that actually delivered a automated AI solution that replaced what their chatbot, their virtual agent, had been doing to identify when customers are impacted by a disruption and have the ability to rebook on their own and can self-service. They're using generative AI to actually offer up the next best options for those customers and be able to work with them to focus that customer and to automate that customer's experience while all within a natural sounding interaction with the company. And the end result of this is if you can increase the containment in a scenario where you have a significant influx in contacts, you reduce the amount of time that customers have to wait to get to your live agents. And then those customers that do end up needing to get to your live agents, they have the most complex issues that your agents are best suited to handle. So the issues that can be resolved automatically and can be resolved quickly for those customers can be done self-serviceable. One of the metrics I love looking at this for this use case in particular, customers that were impacted by a disruption for this airline, when they had to talk to a live agent, the end-to-end engagement was 25 minutes. But when they were able to resolve their issue with generative agent in an AI solution, so not just a regular old chatbot and not getting to a live agent, if they could do it autonomously, it only took them 8 minutes. So you can reduce the time that it takes for a customer to deal with something particularly painful and allow for it to be a much better and reduced friction experience. And then this slide is a really good example of how we think about this. And I know Bobby will talk a good bit more about how he helps customers measure the ROI. But when a customer is able to deploy AI solutions that in upfront, they increase your tech costs. They cost more to actually run generative AI models, but they can reduce the amount of labor hours and ending up needed to resolve or handle those customer issues the first time, which is really the key thing. For one of our partners, they reduced their total cost per customer. So when you think about all of the labor and supervisor costs and the costs of running these models as well, they reduced it by 23% by replacing a virtual agent with a generative agent. I hope that I know I went on there, but I love the stories that our customers have brought to us here.
No, that's such a great example. And I think, I just talked before about how, contact center leaders want to see an increase in proactive engagement. And this is just totally exemplifies that of, meeting a customer need before it even really gets to them. And then they can self-serve effectively. And like you said, save so much time, because in those cases, they're highly emotional, they're very urgent. Giving customers the tools to self-serve saves them so much time. It makes them feel a lot more cool, calm, and collected because they know they have every tool that they can to solve their problem without having to spend 30 minutes on the phone when they're at the airport scrambling. So these kinds of cases, I think, are so perfectly exemplify AI supporting the customer and the agent and just making it more seamless, which at the end of the day is really what people are looking for.
And I will say too, we talk so much about the ROI and the cost reduction impact, but the better that customer experience is for those customers, the more likely they're going to continue to use you as a brand, but also come back to those channels that work for them. If you can, scaling that opportunity to allow those customers to self-serve, it only sets you up for more success.
Definitely. Yeah, and exactly. When they have a positive experience, they're so much more likely to use the technology and have a positive experience. So, okay, Bobby, I have a question for you here. As companies look to scale their operations with AI, how should they measure the ROI in terms of operational efficiencies?
Yeah, I think it's a super important question. And as we think about the results that we just showed on the previous slide, what we've seen with our customers that works really well is first really understanding kind of what the costs that you're going to be incurring as you look to make this investment. Earlier, we saw half of this group has not started actually using AI, so this is going to be an important piece for you all. When you do make this investment, it's likely going to be more expensive than, say, your traditional chatbot or IVR. Depending on the tech that you're purchasing, there might be standard fees with this, there might be usage fees, and then there's a cost associated with setting that up and maintaining it over time. So I think understanding all of these different components is a very important part to help kind of baseline how much value you're really going to need to create from these solutions in order for this to make sense for you economically and not just be something kind of cool that you want to try out, really kind of impact your overall business. So when we think about kind of where the value can come using generative AI in the CX space, we think that it really has impact in three kind of key areas. The first one is the ability for it to reduce your overall repeat interactions. So if you, let's say, are taking an AI agent and you're replacing or using this in addition to your chatbot or your IVR, it's usually going to be much more effective at resolving any subsequent questions that the customer might have. So your chatbot might do a great job of answering question one, but then it gets stuck with question two, or doesn't even know that they have question two yet, where generative AI can start to handle all of those different questions and proactively resolve that second issue for the customer. So that's going to help you out economically in two places. One, it means that your agents are going to need to be less involved later on to handle those follow-up questions. But depending on your the structure of the investment that you're making, it can actually help reduce your overall costs if you have, say, a usage-based contract. If you can reduce your overall number of contacts, that's going to help offset some of the higher costs that you have from this technology. The second area, and probably I'd say the largest opportunity for this technology, is the ability to really successfully automate interactions. And I would put a really, really big emphasis on the word successful there, because it's very critical as you look to use this, that it's actually resolving the customer's issue, and it's not just making them hang up and try a different channel. What we've seen historically with chatbots and IVRs is that could be very easy to claim that somebody was like contained through their automated experience, but that customer was really just stuck in a loop, or they gave up and they tried a different channel and ultimately looked to get their question answered elsewhere. And if that's happening, that's ultimately not saving your company any money. That's just driving up your costs overall. So as you're looking to invest in a new AI solution or trying to measure the ROI of your existing technology or AI investment, it's really important to understand what your successful automation looks like today and make sure that you're not inflating any of your previous automation numbers. And you also want to make sure that the AI that you're using is actually doing net new things that your previous chatbot or IVR couldn't do. If you're just taking an intent that your chatbot handles really well and moving it over to an AI solution, you're probably not going to help reduce the overall labor hours that you need to meet that to handle those conversations. You're probably just inflating your overall costs. So it's really, really important to make sure that the things that you're automating are both successfully automating them and then also net new things that previously had to go completely to live agents. And then the third and final bucket is of that group that does get to live agents, we want to make sure that the agents are being as efficient as possible. There's a number of different ways that AI can help out to your agents. There's agent assist tools. There's things that can kind of take on different parts of the task. But where we're seeing things move is that the role of the agent, we think, is actually going to completely change. And that's going to help it work and then work in partnership with the AI. So instead of the AI kind of passing the conversation over to the live agent, we see a world in which the human agent kind of steps into the AI and helps move it along and handle more complex conversations. So where we see the agent efficiency space going is that instead of maybe taking a 15-minute call, your AI handles the vast majority of that call, and then your human agents step in to handle 1 or 2 minutes of it without fully taking over from the AI. And if we can do that, that's going to then drastically increase the number of conversations that your agents are able to take. And that's going to help drive significant value for your company. So these things definitely can get very complicated very quickly. But I think if you keep these kind of 3 main buckets of value, make sure that you're measuring them correctly, and then also driving real value out of this, you're going to see a positive return from your AI investments.
Thanks so much, Bobby, for outlining all of that. Super helpful. And we just talked at CCW Las Vegas about kind of the evolving agent role and what that looks like. And it's really exciting to hear about how this technology can support that new role and what that might look like, because I think so many people are in the early stages of defining what the next step or the next generation agent role will look like. So it's really cool to hear about, your insight there. But I want to talk a little bit about things beyond efficiency, because it's not just about being efficient. Companies expect to see a lot from their AI investments. So Bobby, beyond operational efficiencies, what other benefits can companies see with AI?
Yeah, it's super important. And I think one of the stats you showed earlier is that customers aren't fully bought into this yet and not seeing the results that the customer wants to see. So I think as Stephen kind of mentioned this a little bit, is there's areas where the customer can get their issue resolved significantly faster using this technology than if they had to go and interact with a live agent. So in the past, a lot of what chatbots and IVRs really focused on was resolving the simple conversations. And now we can really focus on doing more complex things. And in the past, all the complex things had to be handled by a live agent. And that's a really, really difficult job for those agents to do, to just be handling very complicated things all day long. It takes the agent a lot of time. So the agent's going to have to go through potentially multiple systems, get up to speed on your past conversation. If they're on chat, they're probably handling more than one conversation at a time. And that adds up for the customer as well. So that time that the agent's spending doing all of those things becomes time that the customer is waiting. On top of that, depending on how much staff you have and how much demand there is, there could be really, really long wait times for your customers to even begin getting support from a live agent. So when we see, if we give AI agents the ability to do really complicated things, then we can see the customer benefits greatly from this by getting their issue resolved significantly faster. So that's one of the key pieces that we've seen really work well in companies that have deployed this successfully thus far. A couple other things I think have really helped out is, depending on your industry that you're in, there may be days where you have spikes in volume that are kind of unpredictable. And maybe you overstaff on your everyday, day-to-day, in order to prepare for those fluctuations. If you have the ability to now automate those things that are going to spike, that helps you kind of smooth out your demand, and it allows you to better effectively staff your contact centers to handle your demand. So a couple different benefits there, both on the customer side as well as in the larger operations, that I think have really come to life. We've seen it successfully with some of the customers that we've deployed this technology with.
Great. So we covered a lot of the successes, the benefits, but as I mentioned earlier, there have been some challenges. So from your perspective, Stephen, what are some of the most common challenges that you see organizations face when seeing results and delivering our ROI from AI deployments, and how can we overcome them?
It's funny. I think Bobby talked about it a little bit. Successful automation and naming it successful is such a key part of ROI, because just having somebody be contained and say that they didn't get to a live agent doesn't always mean that you actually solve the customer's problem. You may have actually made that customer's problem worse, and they now are having to contact you, coming off of chat to call you, or they're actually in a phone queue while also in a chat queue, messing with your management of queues. So, or they have to show up to a place of business to get their question answered, which causes significant problems for you as well. So I think one of the key things that is, important is truly measuring automation correctly, and not just getting pigeonholed into the single channel that customer started on, and being able to really understand the holistic view of your business and how your customer could be impacting or interacting with your business through any possible entry point. I think if you only focus on one channel and you aren't focused on the true resolution of that customer's problem, you can potentially be overstating how impactful your efforts are, and not really focusing on the areas where you can really be making the best impact for those customers. So I do really think that that's a key part. I'd also say one of the points that you had earlier, Brooke, about how the companies are not seeing as fast of results as they expected for AI. I think a key part of that, and one of the challenges that organizations are facing, is how should they properly be allocating resources to change how they think about leveraging AI. And one of the things that we've seen is that AI does require more iterative deployments and more frequent focus on how you deploy with your customers and reading customer conversations than the old world of just a chat bot. You know exactly what's going to happen. You set it and let it go, and those numbers are what they are. So being able to leverage experts within the organization to help to make sure that the requirements are set for your generative agent and your solutions that use AI, and being able to use those resources that really know your business to ensure that we're covering kind of the holistic view of the customer. I think it's key, but it's also, it is a challenge for companies to reallocate how they think about their business, especially the customer experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, AI, as you mentioned, is not just this one and done thing. It's definitely a project, and making sure that, like you said, you have the resources allocated is a really critical piece. So, Bobby, I have a question for you. How do organizations weigh the trade-off between automation that scales and the need for agents to handle more complex or nuanced customer issues?
Yeah, great question. I think historically with automated systems, there's always been kind of a ceiling of where things could go. You'd have the simple conversations that could go to your chatbot or your IVR, and then leaving things to your more complicated things to your agents. And depending on the type of business that you have, there's probably a good chance that the more complicated things are making up a larger share of your interactions, especially as self-service content on your websites become better, the simple conversations kind of go away. So in order to really get a lot of benefit out of this, you really need to be able to handle more of the complex interactions, leveraging or chip away at more of the complex interactions. What we've seen with AI is that now you can, with generative AI specifically, there's more that you can do on these complex things. You can handle conversations that now kind of don't follow a very linear path, where a chatbot or an IVR really needed the conversations to follow a very linear flow. There's also new things that you can do when your conversations might have really personalized experiences that include a lot of information about the customer. So if you have, for example, a customer who wants to look at a specific charge on their credit card, if you in the past gave that customer all of their different charges, that just wouldn't work from a customer experience standpoint. So now you can kind of tap into exactly what the customer is talking about and give more tailored responses that you couldn't do in the past. There's things you can do to take actions on behalf of customers that probably would have been very difficult to do historically. And I also think there is a component of this where complex doesn't just mean a really complicated process. It can also mean really nuanced questions. And that's something that we've been able to see that generative AI and these AI agents are able to handle a lot better than a traditional chatbot that might give a kind of blanket statement. They can get more tailored, more specific answers. And once we do that, then you can start to really scale up these use cases to take on more and more of your interaction volume. And it doesn't need to just be this paradigm of the automated system takes the simple things and then your humans handle everything else. There's the component now of you can have the automated system take a lot of the complex things. You also have the benefit of taking on more and more of the complex things by having the human in the loop who can now enable you to do even more things. So there's a lot more opportunity to start chipping away at complex conversations that really didn't exist a couple of years ago. And I think is a really exciting way that customers are going to be able to see benefit from this.
Brooke,
Definitely. Ooh, sorry.
to add in on that, I was just thinking about, as Bobby was saying, that one of the things that we've seen that's really interesting in the kind of the nuanced conversations too that companies are doing right now is, if you are seeing an area where your agents are actually making a lot of mistakes and they may not be as accurate as you expect. So if you're doing quality review and you're seeing that agents are actually not able to comprehend or really get the full picture of company policy, even if it seems like it should be straightforward, it's not a particularly like complex multi-step answer for a customer. We're seeing in those areas where generative AI can take a lot of information and parse it really well to answer customer questions rather more accurately than your standard human agent who may only have been working at the company for 14 days before they're supposed to be answering really complex questions or nuanced questions about policy too. So there's a lot of different ways that we can see how organizations are weighing what their best options are.
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. Okay, so I have one last question, and I just want to remind everyone that we're going to end here with a Q&A. So feel free to submit your questions now, and we'll get to them after this. But looking ahead, I always think it's fun to look ahead towards the future. What do you both see as the next major trend in AI for customer service? Will we see kind of a deeper reliance of AI in specific areas, or will there be a push for more of this hybrid model combining human agents and AI? And then second piece of my question, how will these trends affect the ROI that companies can expect from their AI investments?
I can go first. I know I just jumped in on the last one, but the thing I'm most excited about is seeing some of that hybrid usage of both live agents and AI up front. So companies starting out with AI in automate or attempting to automate a customer's issue, voice or chat, and then at certain points of a conversation being able to pull in a human just to make sure that a task is being done right, but not actually actively communicating with a customer. That's where we see really exciting things in human in the loop technology, where it could be a simple task that the company doesn't have APIs built for, but the agent can do it on their own and on their own desktop, or it can be a really nuanced question of, should this person actually get a refund, or should this person actually be able to schedule an appointment that a live agent can make the determination on. But then you can still have AI handling the rest of a conversation. So you're only needing to leverage humans in the key turning points of a conversation that are most important. I'm really excited to see how companies can continue to expand the usage of automation up front to try to solve customer issues, but the focus on not creating really difficult or long waits for customers by inserting humans in the loop at the most key parts of the conversation. So I think that hybrid usage and the changing of how you train and operationalize your resources to best fit customers at the key points is something really exciting that I think we're going to be seeing a lot more companies doing in the near future. I know, Bob.
Yeah, I would say I think one of the things that will kind of evolve as we move into that model is the way that you measure things, I think, and measure ROI is going to have to change. It's not as much black and white. This person was contained within an automated experience versus not. There's going to be a shift to think about how your agents are measured, how we measure that containment, that automation component. And I think that is a piece that we're trying to dig through right now and look to how that changes in the future. Companies are going to have to really rethink some of the historical metrics that they've looked at and think about how to measure ROI a little bit differently, as you now have this blending of an automated system with humans, where before it was a much more separated situation.
Okay, so I'm going to shift here now to our Q&A because we have a few questions here. And thank you both for sharing your insight. Okay, so the first question, when a human agent intervenes, do you recommend that be overt so that the customer knows or sees it, or covert, where the agent is orchestrating responses in the background?
Go ahead, Tim.
I feel like I'm going first on the last ones. All right, I'll weigh in, and then I love to hear Bobby's perspective on this. My perspective is it should be a clean transition when a live agent is taking over all focus of the conversation. So if we go from an automated solution to a live agent solution, my recommendation is always to be upfront, make sure that the customer knows the agent's name, all of the things that make it humanized. I think that still is an expectation for customers in the world today. And there's plenty of customers that just want to talk to live agents, and that is a key point for them. I think if we are doing something where there is a human in the loop in the background, where they are just solving one individual task or making a quick determination on where that conversation goes and then passing it back to generative agent or to an AI solution, our recommendation is to not introduce that there's somebody pulling the strings in the background there, and to keep that covert, as you said. Hopefully that answered the
Okay.
question.
Yeah. Great. Okay, next question here. This is a great question. Okay, how do you factor in less tangible outcomes like customer satisfaction or loyalty when calculating ROI? And how do you incorporate feedback loops from AI to continuously improve both ROI and customer experience?
I'm happy to take that one. So some of the, again, less tangible things, they're harder to quantify. So a lot of the metrics that we've observed in the past, like customer satisfaction and sentiment, those are all things that are still super relevant in this space. And similar to how you would like monitor your experiences with your live agents, we think that some of those tools are still relevant today with your AI agent. We also think another important piece is the quality side, to make sure that your AI agent is doing the things that it's supposed to do. So we've really worked to make sure that we can measure those types of things. How often is it potentially making a mistake? How does that compare to any sort of live agents? So those are all different factors that are super important to measure outside of just, I saved the company X number of dollars. Especially if it is moving in the wrong direction, we want to make sure that your customer satisfaction is actually getting better as you deploy that, as you deploy this technology. And then on incorporating some of the feedback loops, there's a lot of opportunities, I think, to learn where where it's behaving more like your agents. We've done work where we've had agents, people who have been frontline agents, come in and observe the conversations to see what is this, how you would have responded to this, to make sure it's having the right tone of voice, make sure it's still acting as on behalf of your customers or on behalf of your brand, and then training the AI to act more like that, so it doesn't seem as robotic, and it can still be the voice that you want your humans to be doing, giving that to your AI.
Got it. Thanks. Another question here. How do you know you're hitting the right balance of automation and human support?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one as well. I think there's a really important element of understanding all of what your customers are contacting you about and figuring out why, if they got to an agent previously, why they got there, right? So if there is a situation where the customer is just really frustrated with your brand and they need to talk to somebody, or they're being forced to contact you for something that they can't get help on their own, making sure that we're not adding in this friction to say, let's try to have you talk to our AI agent first, right? Making sure that those people can get the support that they need from a live agent faster. So it's finding the right balance of understanding what the questions that people are having and seeing, will the AI actually help in this situation, or is it going to make things worse and potentially add friction for your customers? And if you're just trying to throw it at everything and hope that it works, that's not going to be a strategy that customers are going to enjoy. And then we're going to see some of those stats that we saw at the beginning, where customers feel like this isn't something that they want to engage with. So making sure that you're really deploying it in use cases where it makes sense and where it's going to actually resolve the issue, rather than just add in some additional steps.
Definitely. Adding value is key with AI. Okay, interesting question here. How have you been able to implement AI tech-based technology solutions in IT help desk contact centers, which are different from customer service contact centers? So basically the question is, what outcomes are you seeing in customer service contact centers? Well, in technical contact centers, sorry. I don't know if I explained that question well.
No, it's an interesting question. So I would say we personally have focused more on the customer service opportunities, largely because of the volume of requests into those customer service opportunities are larger, so that it's a bigger problem and a larger ROI equation to solve for. But the great thing about generative AI is that it's based on the inputs that it's given. So as long as there is clear instructions and quality knowledge that it can reference, and quality APIs that it can use as sources of truth, there's no reason why you couldn't be solving internal help desk solutions that way, and potentially whether it's augmenting the help desk agents in how they're handling issues by providing better support for how they do it, or automating some of that work up front. It's really, the exciting thing about this is it's all about the inputs and the instruction given, and the power of large language models allows you to be able to handle those types of problems.
Great. Okay. What's the benchmark for accuracy for AI agents?
I can take that one. I think that's a fun question, because it depending on who you ask, there's probably different perspectives on it. One of the things that we have talked to customers and businesses that are thinking about this about is that using just a virtual agent or a chat bot as the benchmark is not the perfect way of handling accuracy, for a number of the reasons that we talked about earlier. Not very clear on what's successful or not, and how you actually are managing the customer issue. So in a perfect world, if you're just thinking about the accuracy of an AI agent, we actually think that you should be setting a benchmark by how accurate your live agents are at handling those same problems. So by using and reviewing live agent conversations and QA analysis on those live agent conversations to see, are agents following the correct protocols and procedures? Are they providing accurate information that is rooted in their training materials, or the materials that are available to customers? We would say using that as your benchmark is more effective, but we would also say that there is an innate lack of trust for AI right now that people are building up, that it's not just about being better than live agents and more accurate than live agents. It's a significantly fewer mistakes and more accuracy than live agents should be the benchmark for companies to get buy-in across their organization of expansion of AI. So it's not just it's driving significant cost savings, but it's also the accuracy and the efficiency gain above the alternatives.
Okay, so one more question here. What is the best way to optimize AI agents?
Yeah, I think that what we've seen work really well is understanding kind of where the gaps are in what the AI can do. So what are the questions that your customers are asking that are not answered by the content that you've provided to your AI agent? It doesn't just know everything about your company. There's certain questions or policies that maybe you haven't given it access to initially. So looking at those conversations and understanding from the analytics, what are the different types of questions people are asking that right now it doesn't have the answers to, or maybe things that customers are confused by some of the nuance of the policy, and then learning from those conversations and actually seeing how your live agents handle it, and partnering with your policy teams to make sure that you give it the right content. That's what we've really been able to see over time help improve the success of the AI agents. And then partnering again to figure out what are the things that your live agents are taking today to help incorporate that information into your AI agents so that you're able to expand and really grow the value of it over time.
Okay, one final question, and then Bobby and Stephen, I'll hand it over to you if you want to share any closing remarks here. Since generative AI is not deterministic, what's involved in making sure I know what the AI agent is doing, and what kind of features or tools should I be looking for?
I feel like I've taken a lot of questions. Bobby, you want this one?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to answer it. So I think one of the things that Steven touched on this a little bit earlier, but when you're using generative AI, the conversations could go a slightly different way each time. And if you want to really scale these out to really have a large impact, you kind of need to be able to see at scale what's happening in those conversations. So looking for tools that have what we refer to as conversation monitoring that can kind of review all of the conversations at scale and flag anything that may need to be reviewed to see if it's doing the right thing, and look at anything that you might want to address further. So that's something that I think is super important as you deploy this, making sure that you have observability into it. and also being able to test these things beforehand. So one of the things that is really key is that every time you talk to AI, it's going to give you a slightly different response, right? So if you test 1 or 2 times, it may not cover all of the different things that you want to do or that may happen in production. So you also want to make sure you have a tool that can go through a number of different scenarios in a much larger fashion than one person going and testing a couple of different ways, and making sure that at scale, it's doing all of the things that you want it to do. So I think that's a really key piece of this, is being able to test that scale beforehand and then make sure you have observability of the conversations once you're actually live to ensure that it's doing everything accurately.
Okay, we actually do have one more question. We keep getting more questions. Should you review every conversation?
I would say it is dependent on what stage you are in rolling out AI, and a lot of what Bobby was just talking about is also how it helps to answer this question. So if you have tools to be able to automatically monitor conversations and also have tools to test scenarios that you expect to happen and ensure that the AI agent is doing what you expect it to do, the expectation should not be that you're reviewing every conversation. I've spoken to a lot of contact centers. I don't know anybody that reviews every live agent conversation. So it's kind of a similar answer here as well, is that what we think the path that we should be going on is empowering companies to only be reading the conversations that need their review. So using models to actually flag conversations that need somebody's eyes on, whether it's potentially a miscommunication between sources that is being communicated, or it's just something that we want to make sure is a hot button item. Our recommendation is to move to a state where you have the tools to flag the conversations that need monitoring, rather than saying, I need to read every single conversation, or probably worse, I need to take 10% of conversations and just pick that random subset and read those. You would be significantly overexpending in labor costs if you had to read every one while you're trying to expand your volume.
Okay, thank you so much, Stephen and Bobby. Do you guys have any final thoughts that you want to share before we wrap up?
No, thank you everybody for the Q&A questions. So those were fantastic.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, so if you'd like to learn a little bit more about what we talked about today, Bobby has just published a blog post, and I'm going to share a QR code right here on asap.com called "Is Your AI Agent Actually Saving You Money? Here's How to Tell." So you can scan that QR code directly on the screen and you can read that post. And thank you all so much for joining. We so appreciate it. Stephen and Bobby, thank you for sharing your insight. And yeah, talk to everyone soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, I just